Hello, it's Crafty Rhea. Today we're going to be recycling more Christmas cards, but instead of making new cards, we're going to be making a gift bag. This cute little gift bag is what we'll be making out of 2 used Christmas cards. You can use any type of cards, obviously, birthday or anniversary or whatever, to make this, but you will need 2 cards. They don't have to be used cards. You can use cards from a box, and they can be any size card. The size of the card you use will determine the size of the bag you're going to get. I went through my stash and I happened to find 4 of the same card, so I thought it would be perfect. I would make a prototype to see if I could do it and figure it out, and then I have 2 more to show you how to do it. These are recycled cards. They've already been signed by someone on the inside, but that's okay. You're not really going to be able to see that part. If you can look down in here, you can see it if you really look down on the sides. Down in there, you can kind of see that they were already signed by someone, but it really doesn't matter because it's not really going to be that noticeable. I even used a scrap piece from the inside to cut out and make a little gift tag to put on it. And then the bottom part of the card is folded over at the bottom. I scored a little gusset in the side, so it looks like a really cute little gift bag. The original card measures 5 by 7, or just about 5 by 7. And the finished bag measures 5.5 by 5. Like I said, the size card you use will determine the size of the bag, and if there's anything on the back of the card, that will determine the size of your sides. So let's get started, and I'll show you how to do this. And like I said, you can use this pattern for any size cards. So you're going to go through your stash. You're going to find 2 cards that either they don't have to match perfectly, but they can coordinate with each other, and they need to be cut to the same size. So if you have one bigger and one smaller, you'll cut the bigger one down to the smaller size. And you want to keep the whole card intact for right now. And like I said, you'll want them both to be the exact size. These just happen to be the same card, so that works out well. You're going to want what you're going to look for, you're going to want a decent picture on the front, and the picture is going to have to be doable if you fold back part of the bottom, because it's going to be folded underneath. So this still looks really good with the bottom of the Christmas tree, and then the bottom is folded under. So that's what you're going to end up with. So as long as it doesn't ruin your image to do that, you're fine with it. And then what's going to determine the size of your card, you need to determine how wide you want your bag to be. I decided I would use up as much width of this white as I could before it ran into this image, because I didn't want part of this image to show. So I measured it, and it came out right up to that image was 1.5 inches. And like I said, you'll measure your own. It'll be different depending on your card. I'm going to go ahead and take a 2-inch measurement, because I'm going to fold back 1/2 inch of this to use as a tab. And you'll see what I mean in a couple minutes. But however wide your side of your card is going to be, that's going to be about the same width as the bottom. You'll want to make it a little bit shorter, but I'll show you that again in a minute. So 1.5 inches here, I'm going to have to take away 1.5 inches here as well. So let's get started. I'll show you what we're going to do. So I decided that I would have the side be 1.5 inches, but I'm going to cut it at 2 inches because I need an extra piece, an extra tab left over to fold. So I'll start with it here, put it in my paper trimmer. I'm going to line up, I'm going to put it upside down because I'm going to cut off this edge here. I'm going to line up the fold of the card at the 2-inch mark. on my paper trimmer. Okay, and that way I'm cutting 2 inches off. I'm leaving 2 inches on this and cutting the rest off. So I'm going to line this up in my paper trimmer. The fold of the card is at 2 inches. And I'm just going to cut this off and I will set that aside. So that's what I have left over. I'm going to do the same thing with the other card. And be careful when you line it up. You don't want to line up the image. You want to line up the fold. Sometimes the image goes over the fold. So you want the actual fold lined up at 2 inches for this particular size of card. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but you get the idea. So then you take that piece off. Then I'm going to set this aside and bring out my scoring board. If you don't have a scoring board, you can score with a bone folder, a ruler, and something soft like a magazine or a cutting board underneath. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to score it this way. Since the side of my bag is going to be 1.5 inches, I'm going to score this at 1.5 inches. And I'm just going to give one nice good score all the way across there. And this is going to be the piece that folds under. Do the same thing with the other one. Score it at 1.5 inches. Okay. And now I need to make my little flap that's going to fold over, and I need to make my gusset on this side. So I want my flap to be 1/2 inch because I want this to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to put it this way only because it's easier to show you. It measures out to 7, so I'm going to score this piece at 6.5. A nice good score, and that's going to be at 6.5. I'm going to do the same exact thing on this side. 6.5 I'm going to score at. Like I said, it doesn't matter what your measurements are. You just want this piece here to be 1/2 inch. And as you can see, you've got part of that image in there, but it's going to be folded under. You will not see that part. You have this number here. That is going to be folded under. You won't see that part either. Now I want to score a gusset down here. I don't need to score this piece here, but I do need to score from here to here. And I want to score it in about half. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I know this is 1.5 inches, and I'm going to take it I'm going to eyeball it. Let's see. It wouldn't be 1/2. It would be 3/4 inch from the fold to this fold. So I want to take this just to cut, not cut, but fold, score this piece in half. So I scored from this line to this line would be 3/4 inch. And you can eyeball it, but you want it about the same on both pieces. Might have to do a little math or just guesstimate the center. And like I said, score that fold right down to that line. You don't need to score this bottom part. Okay, does that make sense? So we have our side of the bag, which is 1.5 inches. We have that scored in half at 1/4 inch. We have 1/2 inch here to fold under, and then the bottom is going to be the same width as this. The bottom score is going to be the same size as that. Okay? Those are your scores. Does not matter what size card you're using. If you just follow those rules, you should get it. So then I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to prep it. I'm going to fold this 1/2 inch side in, use my bone folder and get that fold nice and good. And obviously the fold of the card is already there and folded for you. I'm going to fold up this bottom piece. And it just so happens on these cards, you don't even see the person's signature. It got cut off. You do see a few words, but I'm not worried about that. If you don't like that, you could cover it with a piece of paper or a fancy sticker or something like that. Or you can even cut this type of thing out of another piece of cardstock. Just put a second 1/2 inch fold on the other side. I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to fold it this 1/4 inch piece in, fold up the bottom, just give it a nice good crease. And then you could take your gusset and just kind of fold it a little bit in. You don't have to fold it much right now, but you can just give that just a little bit of a crease. Now, to make this fold on the bottom not touch and get in the way, I'm going to cut off a sliver of the card like I did on this one. So I'm going to get my paper cutter again. And I'm just going to cut off just a little piece. I don't have to measure. Just cut off about that much, just a little bit, just so when you fold it over, it's not going to be hanging off the edge. It gives you just a little cleaner of a fold. So then I have these two pieces that match. Let me just get my scissors and I'm going to do some cutting. So this piece here, I do not need at all, and I'm going to cut that off, but I'm going to cut it a little bit on the edge of that fold, just so it makes a little bit of takes a little bit out of that corner, just so it folds nice. I'm going to fold the card over like this and just cut this piece off as well, and then that gives you that. You could also make 2 cuts like that if you wanted. Then I'm going to go to the top of the card and I'm going to cut that piece off too, just so none of your pieces that you're attaching are going to be sloppy or getting in the way. So we'll start by cutting this little tab off. We don't need this piece, this outermost tab. And then here I'll do this piece in 2 cuts, cut right up to that fold and over here. So I'm going to take like a little mini triangle out of that. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this top part off like that, just so none of your edges are sticking out. And if they don't look like a nice clean cut, you can go back and give it a trim. It does not have to be perfect. These pieces will not show. All right, so I have these 2 pieces like this, and they're ready to go. So for this project, I'm going to use a wet adhesive. I'm going to use the Art Glitter Glue. You can use any kind of a white glue, a school glue, Aleene's tacky glue, whatever kind of glue you have. You can also use double-sided tape. I like to use the glue on this because it gives me an extra couple of seconds to line things up. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to, just so it's easier for me, I'm going to turn these over and adhere this piece to this tab here. So this front of it's just going to go on here like this. And what's good to have around is a little piece of Kleenex to clean up any of your leftover glue. So, okay, wait, before I do this, I do want to show you one thing. I need to trim this piece in on this side as well, just so it lines up good. So I'm going to just take a little sliver off of that edge and a little angle off of this edge there. It's just easier to do it while the cards are flat. One more thing I'm going to do before I glue anything together is punch my holes for the ribbon at the top. I just have a regular office hole punch. I'm going to line up both of them the same and just eyeball where I want them. I'm not measuring. One about there and one about there. So you're just going to make your 2 holes at the top. I find it's easier to do that now before you have the bulk of them put together. Okay. So we're going to glue this piece onto that tab. So I'm going to just put my glue on this tab. And with this type of glue, you do not need a lot of glue. If you use too much, it'll ooze out the side. I'm just going to line this up, and what's nice about the glue, you have a couple seconds to get it lined up. Wipe off any excess glue. I'm going to flip it over and clean up any excess glue. You want to just press that down real good. You could even take a piece of tape and put it on the inside if you wanted to. Okay, so then you have that piece together. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold this over and glue this piece down to this tab. You want to be careful not to put too much glue because you don't want to glue it to the inside of the bag. Just push it down, wipe off any excess glue, and be sure that you're not gluing it to the inside. And this glue does dry pretty fast. I'm going to put my hands in there and just make sure that seam is nice and burnished down. So there we have the beginnings of our bag. So I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to fold in these 2 little flaps on the sides and fold down one of these. So I will put a little bit of glue on each one of those little tabs. And fold down one of my flaps. Try to get it squared up. I'll put my hand in here and just push them down on there. Push it down on the table. I'm going to use my bone folder and just push it down in there. Just make sure that those flaps got glued on the inside. And then I will take this other piece and glue it down as well. I'm going to put glue on this outside part of the tab. I got a little messy with the glue down here. Move some around and just fold it over. Use my bone folder down in there and just push it down. Use my hand and just make sure all the corners got pushed down. If you need to add glue to something, you can easily do that. So there we have it. The makings of the box is done. And now you can bend your gusset in a little bit. And then to make the handles, well, first I should make the tag. I did it backwards before. So let me make the tag. You could take leftover pieces of your card. If there's a cute image on the back, this one got cut a little bit, so I'm not going to use it. But I'm going to do the tag just like that. So I'm going to pick one of these snowflakes and cut out a square around it. I might have made that too narrow. Let me see how it comes out. I have the other one to use if I made this too narrow. I have this little to from stamp, and this, it's Gina K's powder blue. I thought would look good with this. Just ink up my stamp and kind of just line it up like that. I think that will work. So I've got that little gift tag. I'm going to go ahead and cut a hole in the top corner. And while I'm making sure that glue dries, I will put one handle on, and then I will put that on when I do the second handle. The ribbon I'm using is just some that I've had in my stash for years. I think I got it in a big bundle of stuff at a yard sale or something. This is called Double Faced Satin Ribbon by Beechwood Limited. And for that bag, I cut my pieces to about 10 inches. And let me get my good fabric scissors. You don't have to make it exactly 10 inches. If you have a length of ribbon sitting around, just cut it in half. But try to make them both about the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and put this ribbon through one of the holes, and at the very end on the inside I'm going to tie a knot, just a plain old knot. You could tape them down if you didn't want the bulky knots in the way. I'm going to try to get this knot as close as I can to the end of the ribbon so it doesn't take up much of my length. So I have that, and then I'm going to do it on the other side. Just make sure it goes in evenly. You don't have too many twists and turns in your ribbon. And again, make a knot. There you go, and you've got one half of it. I'll do the same with this side, except we're going to add that tag to it. So I'm going to take this and make a knot. At the end. Oops. I didn't realize the knot would come out. It shouldn't. There we go. Maybe not pull your knot so tight. I'm going to put a second knot on this one because I did pull it pretty tight. So you'll want to make your knots a little loose so they're big enough to not go through the hole. There we go. And then I'm going to put this on the ribbon, and I think if I were to cut it at an angle, I'd have an easier time. And then bring that through to the other side. And I won't pull this knot too tight, just kind of leave it big enough so it doesn't go through the hole. There we go. And then push that up against the bag. So we have, now this one ended up being a little shorter because I did 2 knots on the other one. So I can take one of these and put a second knot in it. That way they're both about the same size. Okay, there we go. So there we go. We have a little gift bag made with recycled Christmas cards. These would be great for little gifts, a small gift, maybe some jewelry or candy, or even some of the smaller greeting cards that we make. Maybe 4 of them would fit nicely in there. Some of the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cards would fit nicely in there. with a little piece of tissue paper, or I don't know what, maybe even a gift card. Lots of little things you could fit in these little bags. So there we go. That's just one more thing that you can do with your recycled Christmas cards or your used Christmas cards. One more way to recycle them. If you don't have any used Christmas cards or any ones that match, you can always buy a box of Christmas cards at the store. The Dollar Tree has a bunch of really cute ones, and you can make a bunch of these bags, and then you can save the envelopes for something else. Well, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because there'll be more cards coming, more recycled Christmas cards, and more crafty things coming. Thanks again, and leave me a comment below and let me know what you would put in these if you were giving them as a gift. Take care, everybody. Now go get crafting. Bye-bye.